Welcome back to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where you'll find information on what's going on the North Fork of Long Island. We'll be focusing on issues and opportunities going on in the community, as well as people and stories from the present and the past. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 19, our guest today is Angelica Ortiz. She is currently the social work intern at Floyd Memorial Library, currently for the year. And we talked to her about her time growing up in Ecuador and going to school there and what it was like for her and how she decided to come over to the U.S. and relocate to Southampton and how the experience was first initially coming over here and what her interests were when she initially got over here and how she wanted to continue her education with social work and getting a bachelor's degree at Stony Brook University and how that was, as well as she's currently finishing up her master's degree at Stony Brook in social work. We also talked to her about what she wants to do after and kind of some of the differences between Ecuador and the US, especially with social work. So I hope you enjoy episode 19 with Angelica Ortiz. Welcome to the podcast today. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me here.
So just to start off in the beginning, just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were born and raised.
Mm-hmm. Of course. I was born and raised in Ecuador, and then I moved here 10 years ago. It's going to be my 10th year here in May. I'm the youngest of three. I'm the baby of the family. And I love New York. I liked it. The idea was just to come and visit at the beginning, and then I loved it, and I stayed. So yeah, I've been here for a while already.
And your parents are from Ecuador?
Both of my parents are Ecuadorian. Yeah. They both grew up there. They worked there. But then my mom moved here probably 24 years ago. So she was the one who got here first, and then when I was 20, I decided to join her. So now it's both of us here. The rest of my family is still in Ecuador, so I go back and forth to see them.
But she decided to come over.
She did, yeah. She was the first one who came here. This was in 2001, actually, and that happened because in Ecuador they changed the coins. We had our Ecuadorian coin, and they changed it to dollars, and that really put a lot of people out of business. And my mom was one of them, yeah. So she decided to come here, work, the American dream.
Yes. And then your dad stayed back with the children.
Yes, my dad stayed in Ecuador with us, but he didn't want to come here. He was not into it.
Really?
He didn't want to leave his country. He loves Ecuador. He barely flies out of an airplane. He's very scared. He is not a big fan of getting out of the city or the country, so he's good in Ecuador.
What does he do for a living?
Well, he's been a little bit of everything. So he's an engineer, but he also loves teaching. So he used to be a high school teacher. He used to be a coach, basketball coach and soccer coach. After that, he just decided to retire. So right now he just hangs out at home, he chills, but he's also very active. Even to this day, he's about to be 70, but he's all over the place, jogging and running. He loves sports, so he's very, very active. He loves that, yeah.
And so you said you were the youngest, but you grew up, you went to school there, and how was the experience going to school?
I loved it. For me, the school in general, intermediate school, high school, was the best time of my life. I was in a Catholic school, girls only, very strict, uniform. You have to be impeccable. You had to be so neat. Those things were a little tricky because you're a teenager and you just want to kind of do your thing, but they didn't allow it. But I built really good connections, good relationships with my friends also, and teachers, and some nuns, actually. The school was, they have a convent where a lot of nuns live. So some of them will teach, some of them will come visit. So we build really good connections. But my friends, I think I met my group of friends since 7th grade, and we graduated together. We stayed together those years, and it was amazing. They were very supportive. I was very involved into a lot of school activities, and they just joined me to anything that I did, or crazy things, like some Christmas dances, some events that I would organize and put together. They would join me too. So it was very nice. It was great growing up there.
And I'm trying to remember, is the capital Quito?
The capital of Ecuador is Quito, yeah.
Quito.
But I grew up in Cuenca, which is the third largest city in Ecuador. So it's Quito is the biggest, the capital. Then it's Guayaquil, and then Cuenca. So it's a city, very big now. I just visited, and it's expanded so much more than what it used to be 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very big, a lot of traffic. It's still nice, but it's just growing and growing. A lot of tourists as well.
Oh.
It's very well known because of the architecture, and a lot of people who retire just move there because it's cheaper, of course. The living is cheaper, and also the food we have over there is all grown over there. It's very natural, organic. We don't do like mass production, so you for sure are gonna eat better, have a better lifestyle. So it's very nice, a nice city.
Is it a high elevation?
Yes, it's high elevation. The highest point of altitude in around Cuenca, where I live, it's like 14,000 meters above sea level. So you will feel it, even after 10 years of living. I mean, I was born there, but I moved out. So I go back, and I'm supposed to kind of get used to it quick. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot. If you just jog or jump, or you can feel your heart rate just going to the roof. Yeah.
But like, say, for your dad, it would he's used to it.
My dad is used to it. My mom struggles when we go back. She struggles too. She has a hard time walking up and down, when we go climbing or we go hiking, a lot of that. So she struggles, but it just takes a couple of weeks until you get adjusted again. But it's fun.
Yeah.
To think that I used to live there and I never felt a thing, and now I go back and it's just my heart rate doesn't take it.
Yeah. And then, so with school, how would you say it was a Catholic school, but was it a different kind of keep you on a certain pathway? Like if you were interested, say in high school, or was it still pretty general?
When I was there, it was still very general, but they offer they call it a specialization. So the last 3 years of high school, you can choose whether you want to go more into the accounting, or you can go more to the medical field, or you can go just to general studies. So in high school, decided to go more into the accounting. So that's where my friends and I split, but we're still having recess together. We will stay together, but I graduated with the accounting specialization, thinking that I was going to do something like that in the near future, but that wasn't the case. I didn't do anything related to accounting. It wasn't.
But that's what you were thinking of going out of high school.
Yes, that was the plan, and I started doing it. But then I never saw myself in an office, sitting in an office, or just working independently on my own. I love people. I love interacting. I love socializing. I love helping. So once I graduated, I didn't think accounting or business or like just office jobs were my thing. So that's when I went the other way to social service.
And that was something you decided in Ecuador.
Yes. I actually, which is funny, and many people still to this day talk to me about it, because I graduated from accounting and then I went into social work in Ecuador. So I studied there, and I was about to graduate. I was probably 3 months away from graduation. I was just 20 years old, but I was almost done. And that is when the opportunity to come here happened. I was just like 3 months from graduating. And I had the option. My mom gave me the option of finishing, graduating, and then moving here, or just coming and take my education in social work here. So for me, that was a big decision. I thought about it, and then I just decided to move here. I said, okay, we have 3 more months. I have the experience. I can just go and start studying over there. So I moved here with the idea of pursuing my social work or career, or finish it at least. But I was so naive about the whole transition of bringing your credits from one country to the other, from especially different countries, so different from Ecuador to North America is very different. Like the way social work is or practices, and then that's how it started. I moved here, so I had to do it.
Did you say that the credits didn't transfer over?
Not all, unfortunately. My belief was that I would come here and will be able to finish it right away. But I didn't take in consideration the fact that, of course, the language was going to be necessary. I had English when I grew up. My school was bilingual too, so we had English, but it wasn't English to the level to go to college. It was more basic English, grammar. But when I came here and I heard everybody speaking, I was like, I don't understand a thing. So it shocked. That's when I hit the wall. That I was shocked to know that I made this big decision of coming here, but I wasn't ready to just jump into college right away. So I started from zero, pretty much. When I came here, I was going to take my English classes in Suffolk Community College. I started practicing English, reading in English, watching shows in English, everything. I just jumped into the new language, even working. I was working, and I just wanted to work with people who spoke English because I wanted to learn quick. And it took around 6 months or so that I learned, and I was comfortable speaking. Otherwise, I was very shy. I wouldn't talk. I would not interact. There's this called cultural trauma or cultural shock when you move to a different place and you just don't know anything what is being said or how to navigate the society. And it got me really bad. So that's when I started doing more like exercises, physical activity, because that didn't require me to speak with anybody.
You can just do your own.
Exactly.
So.
And I wanted to avoid conversations. I remember going to the gym and just people would say hi. I would just run away. Even though I had so much to say, I was not comfortable. But then I learned English, fortunately. I started working more, and then I had to educate myself in how college works here, because that is a different world to what I knew.
Compared to when you started your bachelor's there.
Yes.
How would you describe some of the differences?
Oh my goodness, it's completely different. Completely. So, first of all, I had no idea what associate degrees were, or what bachelor's degree or master's degree. Well, I knew what masters were, but in Ecuador, when you go to a career, you do your 4 years of education. There's no associates or no 2-year college. There's only 4-year college, and then you graduate and you can practice. And then if you want to pursue or continue your education, you take your master's, but that would be like additional. You already are practicing, and then if you decide to do it, you go for your master's. It's like an extra thing. Whereas here, first of all, everybody was talking about associates, and then the first degree that I need to get, and then my bachelor's. I had no idea what bachelor's degree was. So all of that it took a long time for me to understand what I needed to do for me to go back to college. I had no idea. And then I decided to go back thinking that, okay, I finished my bachelor's, I can be a social worker. It's going to be great. But no, then you also need to do your master's, which for me was so confusing because I knew that in Ecuador, that is not how it works. So I had to learn. I learned once I was already in my bachelor's. So, I couldn't just quit. I had to finish it. So here I am doing my master's now in the process of doing it.
But kind of going back a bit, when you decided to come over here, were you hesitant a little bit about deciding on coming over here? And then when you were over here, were you kind of like, were you at some point like, this is kind of all new to me, I want to go back at some point?
100%. 100%. When I was there and the option was given to me of coming right away or coming after I graduated, it was, I think, a very crucial moment of my life where I had to decide this by myself without any kind of support. My parents were there, my sisters were there, but everybody at that point thought that the United States is the country of opportunities, that what do I get from graduating from Ecuador if I'm going to move here eventually? And then I'm going to have to practice social work here. So they didn't, or my family and anybody that I would bring my concerns to, they would say, yeah, it doesn't make sense that you finish here. You just might as well just go there. So I did that. But once I got here, it's when I knew that I made a mistake. That's what I thought the first months. I was like, no, this was not the right thing to do. I wasted my time. I should have stayed there. I should have finished it. But then it always kept coming back to my head, the fact that even if I finished in Ecuador my career as a social worker, I wouldn't be able to practice here with that degree. I had to come and go back to school. So it was just a matter of time if I wanted to stay there longer or come here sooner. It was just a decision that I had to make. And I think everything worked out for, the best. It turned out to be a great decision. It was hard to get adjusted to this country for sure. And I regretted it. I wanted to go back, especially when I couldn't speak to anybody. Because I love talking. I have, again, as I mentioned before, I have a lot to say. And I couldn't for probably a good 4 or 6 months. I couldn't. And that was very frustrating. They took my voice away and I didn't know how to find it. So it was very difficult the first 6 months. So I relate a lot with people who just moved here because I think I also went through the struggles of adjusting to a new culture, a new country, a new city, people, everything.
And so you came to Southampton?
Yes. As soon as I got here, my mom was already in Southampton. She's always been in Southampton. So I moved with her. And I've been there since in Southampton. It's my hometown.
Yes. And how did she end up picking Southampton? Because that was like 20-something.
24 years ago, yeah.
24 years.
She got friends that lived there already. So it just, because I guess it was a coincidence too, because many people told her about Southampton, but she wasn't sure. She's a seamstress. So she had her own store back in Ecuador before she moved to the United States. So she was looking for a place where she can still do the same. And one of her friends actually knew a lady who had a store and was looking for a seamstress. So my mom had that opportunity, and her friend said, "Come here to Southampton. I'll introduce you to this store lady." And then my mom went, and she got a job. So it was pretty much a win-win. Something that they needed in Southampton and something that she could offer. So since then, she loved that job. She was there for probably 10 years. And then she went to a different job, same thing as a seamstress. She still does the same. Yeah, she's been in those business for a while. She loves it. Even since Ecuador, she's been doing it for so many years. She's really good. Not to say that, not to advertise my mom, but she's great.
And does she ever say, after living here for this long, does she comment on Southampton, or does she think it's changed, or it's kind of stayed the same? Because I know that it was more affordable probably when she first came here.
Oh yeah, 100. Yeah, sure. Well, that's the thing, because I moved out. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to live on my own, and that's when she realized how expensive it's becoming. I was more investigating about prices and looking for rent and apartments. And she did mention many times that when she moved here, it was not like that. She could be living in a room or in an apartment to no more than $1,000 a month. Whereas now, that is a dream. That doesn't happen anymore, right? It's more like thousands, $2,000 and above. So she knows, and she does mention about those differences. And also, she always talks about how diverse the community is now. When she moved here, she said that she only had probably 1 or 2 friends, co-workers who spoke Spanish in the job where she was or in the neighborhood where she lived. Whereas now, I think Southampton is probably half Hispanic, Latino, and half American, a white American, because we don't see more. I don't see more. Let's say, different populations much in Southampton, but a lot of Latino people is around. Yeah. Yes. So that's the biggest difference that she's seen. You can speak Spanish everywhere now. Yeah. They will understand it. You find someone who speaks Spanish in every single corner. So it's good, I will say. It's very different to what she remembers when she just moved here.
And does she notice, like, from people coming from different countries, not from specifically Ecuador, but from a wide range of.
So it's very interesting when it comes to cultures on the East End because there is a big Ecuadorian population in Southampton. In Southampton, when my mom just moved in that town, was a lot of Mexicans. But now it's been shifted into Mexicans and Ecuadorians and also Colombians. So she knows about these changes because she knows and she recognizes like the customers she had, the clients, the people around. Before she probably met one Ecuadorian once a month. But now everybody's Ecuadorian in Southampton. So there has been a big shift when it comes to cultures like Latino, Hispanic Latino cultures in Southampton and also on the East End in general.
And do you think like the North End is there more Central Americans?
Yes.
On the North End?
Well, now that I'm here,
now that
I'm in Floyd Memorial Library, I have noticed that it's a lot of Central Americans and Mexicans as well. I've encountered a lot. Some of my clients are, some of the patrons I work with are Mexicans too. So yeah, but I haven't met an Ecuadorian here yet. So that can be a sign of something, but I don't really know. I don't have the stats to say that, but I just haven't met anybody from Ecuador here in the Norfolk as of now.
And so, how did you decide on Stony Brook for pursuing because that was for your master's?
For my bachelor's.
For your bachelor's.
Why Stony Brook? Well, I didn't know anything about how to apply for college. Again, it's very different the way that I knew college. And here, you have to apply, you have to be accepted. Over there, if you go to a private school or private college, you just pay and you go. You do not have to apply or whatnot. So when I came here and I was looking for schools, I went to Stony Brook probably the second year of me living in New York. And I spoke to counselors and they said that it was not going to be possible that I go to that school because they only offered a social work program during the full-time, which was during the day. I had to work to pay school and I couldn't stop working because how would I go to school, right? So they pretty much said, no, you're not a good fit for this career. That's it. Completely closed my doors to social work or going back to school. Then after that, many years, I already made up my mind. I'm not going to school. I'm not finishing social work. That's it. I was doing my other thing, like working on other things, other projects. And then COVID happened. COVID, as much as it was very difficult for many and closed many doors, I think it opened up the virtual world for everybody, which allowed many people to go to school online.
Yes.
So there was such a coincidence in life that happened. I work in a school district, and one of the social workers there started a conversation about me living in Ecuador and studying social work. And she told me that I should look into Stony Brook because they're offering classes online. But this was a Thursday. And I went that day in the afternoon, looked at my computer and looked it up. Stony Brook, they were going to have an open house for information and whatnot. So the open house was going to be on Friday, the day right after she told me. Good thing I looked. And then I signed up for it and I went. When I went to that open house, they told me that, yes, they're offering Zoom classes, which is going to be perfect for me because I didn't have to drive. And they're also going to do full-time students in the evening, which was going to work even better for me. So that's when I was like, okay, this is it. If I want more signs, they are right in front of me. The Zoom option and the evening option, which was perfect because I could still maintain my job and pay for school. So I did it. I applied and I was accepted and it went great. The only thing with that is that classes were meant to be Zoom. I would have been able to finish my bachelor's via Zoom or remotely. That was the idea. But once COVID started, it slowed down and everything went back to normal. Same thing with the classes. They changed it up.
So you had to go back.
I had to go back in person. Things got tight with my schedule. The drive and back and forth. But somehow I did it. I was very disappointed because they mentioned that once they start doing classes remotely, they're going to stay remotely. But then they changed it up. And that was very frustrating because it took a lot of adjusting of you thinking that you're going to just be in Zoom to then going in person. It was doable for me, but for many it was not. So I know many students dropped out when that change happened. Yeah.
But you said it was convenient, or with your work schedule and other things. But do you think when you did go back to in person, do you think that was because some people would say no, I still learn online, but some people said no, it was better interacting in person with the professors or students, or what do you feel?
I think social work is a person-to-person kind of profession, right? And going back in person and meeting people face-to-face and talking to classmates and professors was definitely a great thing. It was inconvenient when it comes to money, traveling, gas, and whatnot, and time also. But it all requires a lot of dedication and discipline. Because even if it's remotely, it's convenient you're at home. But if you don't know how to organize your schedule, you can probably fail all your classes. And in person, you have no choice. You have to be there at a certain time. You do the work because you are there already. So it's easier in a way to be in person because you have the time set up. When you're remotely, you have to put that on your schedule and try to make it fit. So it requires a lot of, I guess, organization, both of them. But in person is definitely better. I build, again, more connections. I make really good friends. It's so funny. The three of us, I have two classmates who have been with me since the orientation that we went in person. To this day, we graduated with our bachelors together. Now we both, the three of us are in pursuing our masters together and hopefully graduating together now in May. So that wasn't something that happened with going in person. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't have met before.
And for when you were doing your bachelor's, did they give you an option, or was it more general in terms of just social work, in terms of the curriculum? And were you kind of figuring out what you wanted to, what pathway you wanted to go in terms of social worker?
Bachelor's is definitely a taste for everything. You learn a little bit of clinical work. You do a lot of families, work with families, with children, with youth, and that's what the internships are for. So you get experience in different areas. Now for the master's is where you can decide where you really want to go or what you really want to do. So they give you different options, and I chose the path of families, children, and youth. So that's what I'm doing now. That's my specialization, my master's. But there's also the clinical field, which will be more working in hospitals and clinic, inpatient, outpatient clinics. But that is a different specialization. So we kind of got separated after we finished our bachelor's based on what you want to do or where you see yourself in the future.
So after you finished your bachelor's, did you say you took time off, or you went right into?
I went right into
right into your
I
master's.
didn't even have a break because I took some summer classes trying to make this, very
Quick.
proactive and quick. I just took I graduated on a Friday or a Thursday, and then I had classes on Monday again. That's how it's been. But I knew where I wanted to go more because of my internships. I had a great experience in my previous internship in the Southampton Youth Bureau. They do clinical work. I loved it because it really shows you where you're leaning more towards, if you really want the clinical aspect of social work or if you want to be more involved in the community with families. And I loved that experience because it really showed me what I'm really strong at, maybe where my struggles are, where I need to work more on, and where I want to go in the future. So that's how I decided that families definitely are my passion, children, youth, kind of the whole aspect of it. Not just sitting in counseling with one person. As much as I love it, it's not where I see myself in the future. I see myself more on the macro level, interacting more with community resources, with agencies, the families, children. It's a bigger aspect of social work.
So that's kind of the pathway you went for your master's.
Yes, that's the path I'm following now, and also looking into for the future. That's where I would like to go. Focusing more on families and youth, and children too. I have a lot of experience with special education, are in special needs because I work in the school district focusing on this. But I would like to kind of open my wings and fly more and see what else is out there, because I've been involved in a lot of children's issues, families issues, community issues. So I want to kind of expand it and see what else I can do to target some of the needs that exist within these groups, let's say.
And then now that you're still currently in your master's, but you started working out here as a social worker. How did that come about? The opportunity to come out to the North Fork with Floyd Memorial Library in South Hole.
So that's one of the things that Stony Brook do for you. You don't really find your own placement, which is, I guess, good and bad. If you don't find your own placement, it does put you in a place where you have to choose whatever is given to you. And that's probably something that you're going to hear across the board in Stony Brook that many don't like, because they offer many options and flexibility when it comes to internships when you are applying. But once you're in, they don't give you that. So it's kind of tricky. But for me, because I am all the way in Southampton, the options were coming here to the North Fork, Southland, Greenport, and also stay in the Children's Museum in Bridgehampton, which is all the way on the East End. So because for your master's, you have to do 21 hours, which is a decent amount of hours during the week. And the driving here was going to be a long drive for me, and it wasn't convenient because the library closes at 5. I work until 3:30. By the time I get here, the library is going to be closed. So it wasn't going to work during the week, but it will work for the weekends. And they had the connection already. The libraries had the connection with my supervisor, which is one of my professors. And that way she asked me, and she put it out there. She said, well, these two libraries are very close to each other. She described the community, and she said if I was willing to drive all the way here and be here all day Saturday. That's when I thought about it, but I did want to get out of Southampton. I wanted to get to know their communities, because sometimes you just get very comfortable where you are. And I wanted to expand that. I wanted to just get out of my comfort zone and try it. Even though the drive could be long, but nothing that a good book doesn't help with. So I did that. I decided to come here. I had the interview with Carolyn and Ellen, and that was great. They mentioned more about the community and the things that we need, the things that we see in the libraries. And that's what helped me out more to decide, yes, I wanna go to the libraries. It's going to be interesting. I'm definitely gonna learn based on the things that they mentioned. And so far, it's been exactly what I expected of the internship, especially with the diversity of services and support that is required.
And had you visited the North Fork previously before this, or were you more kind of staying on the South Fork and more western?
I come here often on the weekends in summer. It's very popular because of the wine tasting places.
Yes.
Also because of the farms.
Yes.
So sometimes my mom loves flowers and plants. She can have a garden and 4 years and take care of it for every single day. So we will come here just to buy flowers and plants, and then we will stop at the farm and just buy all these beautiful vegetables and fresh fruits. And those things I will do often with her on the weekends. So I was familiar just with that aspect of the North Fork. These farms, they're going to town, see nice stores, eat good food, and then go back. But I never had the experience with the community as is, or knowing about the population here, or knowing about the issues that happen here. I had no idea of that. More like I was just an spectator of the North Fork. Yeah.
And now starting to work out here, how has it been, I guess, so far working on the North Fork? Do you enjoy working out here?
I do. It's what's great is coming to a community and seeing more than what you used to see. Again, what I used to see was wineries, farms, and a nice weekend spot, right? But then once I'm here in the library, I get to see that the needs are big. As much as their stores are very nice, and you see a lot of kind of tourists or people who are not from here walking around in town in summer, I also now get to see the other side of it. People who are locals, people who live here the entire year, the struggles of the people who just work in farms, and then the farms are closed for the season, and then you get to see the other side of the coin. Whereas when I come only as a tourist, it's beautiful, and you don't even think about these other aspects, right? But now I get to see them in real life while I'm assisting some patrons who come here to the library for that kind of assistance.
And what would you say now, working out here? Well, it doesn't have to be specifically at the library here, but what do you think's the most challenging thing that, in terms of your job, that you see?
I would say that the general aspect of being a social worker or social work intern is that you still have that motivation to help someone fully. If someone comes in with a need or a struggle, you want to help them completely solve the issue. And that's something that I can probably relate with other social workers. They struggle with, because you take it very deep with you. You want to help them somehow. You want to do whatever it takes. And since I'm new to this library, I'm new to this community, I wasn't really familiar with all the things that I could offer around, because I didn't know the agencies. I didn't know what local supports we have. So I was kind of caught. My hands were caught completely because I didn't know how to help them. I love the fact that I now learned from I learned from all of these resources and agencies around, so I can help. And even I can send people who's like probably not from Southold or Greenport, but even people that is kind of in the near area, that they can come and benefit from these good things that Greenport offers, and Southold too. So before, I had no idea. So it's been a lot of learning that I didn't have before, a lot of experience that I didn't have before. And it's a very nice community. I see the diversity. I see the willingness of helping the community. Everybody tries to help each other, and that is something that you don't see in every community.
And I think I just had like 2 or 3 other questions. But I guess we're now finishing up. You're still going to be working here as an intern, but finishing up your master's. Where do you see yourself after you graduate? In 10 years.
In 10 years. That's a long time from now. I'm barely trying to make it to the summer. But I think it's a good question, because I do know what I want in the future. I don't exactly know where it's going to take me, but I do know that as a social worker, you can help a family, you can help a person, you can help a community. But it has to be taken to different levels, higher levels, where it comes more. We're talking about government. We're talking about policies that are put in place that keep putting some groups in disadvantage. So I do want to take it, I will say, to a macro level, maybe not going to Congress, but yes, being more on the head of organizations or agencies that can help solve some issues. I always felt that if you just help a family, sometimes it can be a lot, but it's not enough. If you help 2 families, it can be a lot of help for them, but still not enough. Even if you help a community, some issues are going to continue happening. What you want to do is not eradicate them, not completely get rid of it, but make it better for the next generations. And that's where I'm going more, trying to find something where I can be more effective, making things stop or not happen again, instead of just helping once they already happened. So with that, I don't know where exactly. If we keep that in mind, focusing on children, families, and youth, it can be many things. It can be many places, but that I don't know still. It's a lot of thinking to do. But I do want to go and focus more on the macro level.
Do you feel that you want to stay in Southampton area, or have you gotten to travel a bit while living here
in the United States?
In the United States,
I haven't really. I've been around, but because of my races, I do compete sometimes. I do Spartan races sometimes, which is like long races and obstacles. So I've been out because of that. I've gone, to Boston and Washington D.C. and different states, Connecticut and New Jersey, but I haven't had the experience of let's say, living out of New York and
Mhm.
maybe getting a sense of what different cities look like or what it is to live out of here. Now that I think it's the perfect timing that you asked me this question, because I've been considering, now that I'm about to graduate, now that I'm out of Southampton, coming here to the Norfolk, I have been thinking about moving maybe out and finding something else, some other place where I can also be
Mhm.
helpful and learn from a different
Mhm.
community, different city, different state even.
Mhm.
But something that has always been in the back of my head is even going out of the country. I have my social work experience based on my experience in Ecuador, right? When you combine that and you combine what I've learned here in the United States, I feel like I can take this anywhere in the world.
Mm.
It's a lot of knowledge that, in different ways that social work practices in both countries, that I think I can practice in many other countries, or even I would like to learn from other countries and bring
Mhm.
it back here or to Ecuador. But like, my options are very, very big, I think. I look at all the places, all the options, and there are many. So I need to decide. I
Mhm.
haven't really done it yet, but I do keep my eyes open to even out of state, out of the country, even go and take a specialization outside of the country. I will,
Mhm.
to then bring it and work here with, the Hispanic, Latino community, if not, or whatever other group of
Mhm.
citizens I can work with. So I would love to do that.
But do you feel that living here now and you go back to Ecuador, do you see some of the same issues, or it's kind of hard to compare two different countries? But as a social worker, I don't know if you see people in Ecuador and or just some of the differences, or you think maybe some things might be done better over there, some things might be done different over here, or just different way of going about things.
Well, yeah, and that is something that is you
It's
ask such great questions. But yes, Ecuador has definitely different issues than what you see here. In Ecuador, you still see kids working. You still see
Mhm.
kids on the street, working as their parents are just same thing, sitting them there, looking at them. So there's a lot of delinquency. There's a lot of this kind of poverty that brings other issues, right?
Mm.
Maybe here I don't get to see that much as
Mhm.
I see it in Ecuador, but then I see other issues where there's no health. The system, the health system,
Mm.
is completely difficult. It's something that I wonder how it got to the point where it is in
Mm.
Ecuador. If you want to get and receive medical attention, you go to a hospital and
Mhm.
you're taken care of. It doesn't require so many appointments, so many challenges and obstacles to actually receive healthcare, whereas
Mhm.
here it's a nightmare. And I've
Mhm.
worked with so many people who I think notice that difference and feel the impact of that. Many issues that you see there that you don't see here. But as a social
Mhm.
worker, practicing in Ecuador, it's more in on the field. You jump in, you help them, you go to their houses, you from there take them to agencies, you connect them, you do the entire work from 0 to 100. You do the entire you handle the situation. Here, that's not how social work is. Social work is very limited to what you are going to be doing specifically. For example, if you work in a school district, you're just supposed to be a social worker for a school district. You're supposed to face on academic progress and see how the students are. But even if something's happened at home, you're not supposed to interfere, because
Mhm.
that's for a different social worker, right? In the
Mhm.
afternoon, or someone outside of school. So for me, that was a challenge, because in Ecuador, if you're a social worker, you can work with the family in all aspects, in all areas. Here, you can't. Even though you know
Mm.
the issue, even though you know what's going on, and you could help and connect them with other resources, you shouldn't, because that's not what your role is as a social worker, depending on where you are. Even
Mm.
if you're in a hospital, you can connect them with other agencies, resources, or help with that situation, but you're not supposed to do more than that, which I feel it's very limited
Yeah.
when you practice social work here. My experience over there was amazing, even though it was hard, because the things you see over there maybe you don't see here. but you will be able to tackle that issue fully and help the family, help the person. Here, you help with a resource, and that's about it. And sometimes that keeps you going and thinking, okay, am I doing a good job? Am I a social worker, a full social worker as I should? It always makes you consider, okay, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing because of what I used to do. That was a lot of help. That was a lot of work, but it was very rewarding because you knew that at the end you will have a good result. You will have someone already succeed in a different area where they were struggling. Here, you don't know that for sure. You help them with one thing or two, but that's about it. You don't really follow up and check and make sure that everything went well because you can be so involved in many aspects that are not part of your job or your role. So that is
that's interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I can go more and more into details with this, but it's very different how social work is practiced from my experience in Ecuador to here. And I can imagine this is even different in other countries. But I get the best of both, I can say. I'm very involved because of what I learned in Ecuador. I try to go not just to where my role is. I try to always go more, which can be good and bad also. I don't want to get in trouble, with my, I guess when I'm not just staying with what I'm supposed to do, I always want to help more. And that's not okay for a lot of people. Many people don't think it's appropriate because that's not how it is. But I always like to make sure that if I'm helping someone, I'm helping them through the entire situation or help them overcome some obstacles that are happening.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, and it was wonderful to hear your story, and I wish you all the best in the future on your endeavors in your career.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm very happy to be part of the Floyd Memorial Library team and also for this great opportunity of speaking for the library with you too. Great questions. Thank you so much for that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 19 with Angelica Ortiz. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you soon.